Hey, what's going on there, guys? We are back here at Top Deck Cards and Games for another Draft Tech episode. I'm joined again by Gregory here.
Yes, you are.
And let's see what we have inside of this Theros pack here. Alright, so if I can only get this open. Alright, what do we have here? We have a Mnemonic Wall, Cavalry Pegasus, Loathsome Katola Pass, Citizen Griffin. We have a Vaporkin. Fate Foretold, Thassa's Bounty, Laguna Bandelder, Priestess of Iroas, Fade into Antiquity, there we go, that's something noteworthy, Chronicler of Hopes, Dissolve, Ordeal of Nylea, and we have Ember Swallower. That's actually pretty awesome in terms of limited. Then we have a Forest and a Bird. The 2/2 bird goes along with Swan Song.
Get there.
Awesome. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about this pack in terms of limited and what we would pick out of here. We're going to have a process of elimination where we take away cards and then talk about what is good from what's remaining. So, I think we can both probably agree that Ember Swallower is probably the best thing out of this pack right here.
Absolutely. For me, it's less about the monstrosity ability and more so just the fact that it's a 4/5 for 4 mana, which is, slightly above the curve, and I'm totally fine with. The monstrous ability, after playing with Ember Swallower, it's not as powerful as it seems. By the time that you have 7 mana to do stuff, your opponent already has probably done relevant things with their mana.
Yeah.
There's a couple of times, especially if you're on the play, getting them out there and doing the ability, you'll set them back, but I would still think it's a first pick.
I think Ember Swallower is he's probably better in sealed than he is in drafting, because whenever it comes to drafting, people can usually draft like pretty quick decks, and whenever it came to like the pre-release, having Ember Swallower and being able to blow up like any big monster stuff that was going on for anybody that like chose like black or blue, it was pretty much good. But yeah, Ember Swallower is definitely the first pick. It's a 4/5 for 4. That's value, and if you're able to make it monstrous, then it just makes it even better. So from here, we have a few different things.
I just want to point something out about this.
Yes.
If you draft this, you won't get blown out by that one card that makes target creature unblockable by anything but a wall.
Because I'm pretty sure
that is true.
It's the only
Zach
wall.
Smith commentary.
That's Zach Stump.
Zach Smith commentary. Zach Stump commentary. Why did I call you Smith?
Get your Zach straight.
Get my Zach straight. Stump commentary here. Mnemonic Wall, yeah, and then you also get to get back a instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand as well. So it's like Archaeomancer.
It's definitely not the pick here, but
well, yeah, yeah. 0/4 for 5 mana wall.
Most likely, what the pick here would be is Fade to Antiquity. There's enough enchantment type stuff in the set that's a great removal spell, as well as just sort of being a utility sideboard card. There are times also where running it in the main is probably a good call, just because of how many different enchantments and enchantment creatures there are. Oddly enough, there's no enchantment creatures in this pack, so it doesn't really deal with anything in the pack, but there are enough enchantment creatures in the deck that this will basically function as a creature removal spell.
We do have an enchantment. It's not the best target, but
no.
It's enchantment. But yeah, Fade to Antiquity, definitely. If anybody drafted any god creatures, which those tend to be a pretty big blowout for what's going on, you're able to just exile them from being there. So it's really not a big deal whenever they go and play them. But pretty much for like any enchantment creatures or anything like that, Fade to Antiquity is good. From there, we have a counterspell. We have Dissolve. We have the Chronicler, which is a 3/3 for 3, which is all right.
My next choice would absolutely be the Chronicler of Heroes. There aren't too many times where you'll be able to draw a card off of the +1/+1 counter. But just the fact that it's a 3/3 for 3 puts it probably in a much better standing than the rest of the cards in this pack.
So we'll flip that over. What else do we have out of here? We have the flyer here. We have another 3/2 flyer for 5. We have the Cavalry Pegasus, which whenever it attacks, each attacking human gains flying. I guess if you drafted some humans, that's somewhat relevant. The Ban Elder is actually pretty awesome. It's a 3/2 for 3, and whenever it enters the battlefield, if you control an enchantment, you gain 3 life. So that's going to count like any enchantment creatures that you have if you played like turn 1, turn 2, because there's the one white lifelink creature And what else? I think there's a green creature for 1 or 2. Or maybe not. Either way, still being able to gain life off of the enchantment creatures you have or anything else, I think is still pretty relevant. What do you think from here? We also do have the Ordeal as well.
I think the Elder is a solid choice. Yeah. I was actually a little bit surprised playing against it. It was actually just... Normally that'd be a card I overlooked, but it was fairly solid, just being a 3/2 for 3, being pretty good on offense, and, you know, most likely getting a 3-life trigger. I'd probably go next to the Ordeal of Nylea. Just getting the counters on, I mean, that's a nice part, but just the ramping. I'm not going to say it's the best of the Ordeal cycle cards, but it's not the worst by any means. And then also, I might be looking at the Vaporkin.
So can only block creatures with flying, but it's a 2/1 for 2.
Yeah.
Playing it on turn.
An evasive 2-drop seems fine with me, and it's more powerful than the Cavalry Pegasus.
Yeah.
And something that might be somewhat limited. It's very dependent on how many humans you get. So I might go into the Vaporkin. And Dissolve's a good card. I don't know if I would place a high priority on it, because I think in Limited, it's pretty much just a cancel, and the Scry is just a slight bonus.
Yeah.
And I'm not too worried about getting hard counters, you know, too often in draft. But it might also be an option as well too.
So let's flip over to the things that we talked about. We talked about the Ban Elder, so we'll flip that over. Also the Ordeal. That's pretty much it. What else do we have here? We have Fate Foretold, so it is... whenever it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Whenever the enchanted creature dies, its controller draws a card and enchants the creature. That's not really that amazing.
I'd probably go for the Mnemonic Wall.
Yeah, either that. Like for me, it would be the Wall. I guess maybe the Pegasus.
Honestly, for me, it would depend on if I saw the equipment or enchantment or whatever it is that makes it relatively unblockable.
I mean that's somewhat fair. That's an uncommon though, so you're not really going to see a huge amount of those. I don't think. Like in an 8-man draft, you're not going to see a huge amount of those.
I mean, this card's noteworthy for just having been a great common throughout time, and it's pretty much like this set's Archaeomancer, and Archaeomancer was a fantastic pick in M14, and there is usually going to be something relevant you can grab back with a Mnemonic Wall, as well as just
especially because you're in blue.
Yeah, I mean, like even if you're playing like blue-black or something like that, being able to get back like Sip of Hemlock or Read the Bones, Lash of the Whip.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, like that's all fine. Those are all fine things you can take back with Mnemonic Wall. So we'll flip these two over, and I guess that's pretty much it for this pack. Like there isn't really a whole lot of amazing stuff. So we'll flip these over and agree on one last card with the with the remaining 5 that we have left. So one card that you would have to pick out of here.
Griffin.
Yeah.
I pick it just because it's a creature that has evasion. The ability is a little bit mana intensive, and by itself a 3/2 for 5 is a little bit much, but the fact that it has flying, I think, makes it a noteworthy pick. This card's average, but personal opinion, I find this card to be just so limited in its scope that's not worth playing. Catobla Pass, I think, is a card that it seems like it would be a pretty good ability, but I also don't like that at all.
Yeah.
I drafted it last week and it did nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, I'm not really a big fan of Thassa's Bounty either, so I think really the only 2 viable picks left in the pack would be these.
It's 6 mana, draw 3, dredge mill your opponent 3 isn't the most amazing thing that you want to be doing for 6 mana.
And not at sorcery speed.
No, I mean, like, not in this format, I wouldn't say.
No.
Not in any format.
But yeah, I would probably have to agree. Griffin is probably the last thing that is good out of this pack.
All right.
Let's flip everything over, and we have Ordeal, we have the Wall, we have Ember Swallower for the rare Cavalry Pegasus, we have the Ban Elder, and Greg, from your side, you can point out.
Fade into Antiquity, Chronicler of Heroes, and Dissolve.
Yeah, so thank you guys for joining us for another draft discussion. Until next time, peace out.